Preparing to live stream. Okay. I think we are live.
All right.
So welcome, Leonard Dawson, and welcome everyone for tuning in to our 11th Color Bold Spotlight of the month. So again, it's the 11th Spotlight. We started last year in September, and it's been 11 conversations with 11 amazing entrepreneurs of color in Northeast Wisconsin. My name is Mia. I work for UW-Madison Division of Extension for Outagamie and Winnebago counties. And I work specifically with Color Bold Business Association to strengthen business development for entrepreneurs of color in this region. And the monthly spotlight is featuring entrepreneurs of color, sharing business stories, strategies, tips and tricks, words of wisdom. It's an interactive experience, so please use the chat box to ask questions anytime, or to just give a hello, or just spread some love. Now I'm going to introduce you to our 11th spotlight, Leonard Dawson. Leonard worked as an executive chef for hotels and cruise ships for over 35 years and started his food truck and catering business while juggling a full-time job. And Smokehound Barbecue started with Leonard's love for good barbecue. His roots go back to North Carolina and Kansas City, and he wanted to offer the Fox Valley an authentic barbecue experience like when he was young. Smokehound Barbecue is now a year-round catering and food truck business. Welcome, Leonard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you? Good seeing you again.
You too. It's really good to see you. And hey, shout out to Kitty for referencing and recommending you to be on the spotlight.
Yeah, I know. Hello, Kitty.
Kitty's in the audience. So just first off here, Leonard, could you give us a little bit more information and maybe more of your motivations of why you got started with Smokehound Barbecue?
Well, I think what a lot of people don't know, which is very emotional for me, is that this business started because of my brother. Okay. Give me a second. My brother's name was Robert Wheeler Jr. This is something that him and I wanted to do together. It was an idea that I passed off to him, and he was very receptive to it. My brother did the same thing that I did. He worked at a barbecue place. He helped some friends start a business down in Missouri. And as years went on, he was by himself, and I felt like I wanted him closer to where we were. And I pitched the idea. I was like, hey, let's go and do our own thing. Let's go out and, we'll look for a building and start our own barbecue business. And and he was all hyped for that. And then as time went on, January the 9th, 2014, he passed away. And it never happened. So at that time, it was just very confusing for me, what to do. And my wife, she was like, you really need to finish what you and your brother wanted to start. And it was a very hard thing to do. It was the right thing to say to me. And I was like, yeah, I need to do this. So I was very determined to start this business. I really wanted to start this business. Everything I learned, came from cooking from my mom. I always used to watch her as a kid in the kitchen. I used to always ask her questions on how she cooked things and how she did it. That's something I did faithfully every day, not knowing, looking back now, that I was being groomed to be a chef one day and own my own business. And so right now, we just when we got started, it was a long road. I wanted to do a brick and mortar business. I wanted to do that and writing a business plan. I wrote probably about 5 or 6 business plans.
Wow.
And then when, the whole restaurant, I didn't come through, then we kind of switched gears and went to a food truck and wrote a business plan out for that. And mind you, I had been out of cooking for over 10 years. I had no idea, in 10 years, how much the food industry changed. When I was the executive chef, there was no such thing as third-party ordering. There wasn't no Uber Eats or DoorDash or any of those things. There was no ordering food online back then when I was a chef. So all this technology had got created while I was out of the business. So I had to really do some research on how far the food business had gone by me being out, and actually research it, and for me to write a business plan to try to incorporate some of those things into my business. So, it was a long road. Some of the, a lot of technology has changed. I couldn't believe in that 10-year span how much food had changed. And it was just mind boggling, So I went to a lot of different barbecue places, and it just wasn't there for me. It just didn't hit that home for me. And I just made that decision that, hey, I can go and I can complain about it to my friends and family about how bad the barbecue is, or I can get off the bench and go out there and do something about it. So I decided to do something about it. And basically all the recipes I cook on the truck, they came from my mom. Everything that I do it comes from her, from watching her as a kid and things like that. My sister, I still talk to my sister. I ask her questions about some of the stuff that, our mom used to do, so everything is based on my family. In my business, that's a reputation of everyone in my family on my business. When it comes to the food, it came from somewhere, whether it be my grandmother, my sister, or my mom, or my dad, or my brother. There is something that represents each member in my family and my business. I felt that, there was a lot of great cooks in my family, and I felt that this was the best way to honor them and show other people what barbecue food is really all about, how it's supposed to be. It's not commercialized, it's not sanitized. This is good down home food that I used to eat all the time. Sure. And that's what I want to give to people.
And do you come from a family of business owners, Leonard?
No, not really. I know my brother that I talked about, he owned a restaurant years ago in Kansas City, Missouri, him and his wife. It was a restaurant and a bar. It was a huge building. It was a Caribbean cuisine restaurant. They specialized in Jamaican food. They had bands every weekend, a lot of big name reggae bands there. It was a good business. What I learned from that was they ended up closing the restaurant down. What I learned from that was that the location really hurt them. It was a successful business. The food was phenomenal. The music was phenomenal. Everything about it, they imported things from Jamaica, as far as the decor and everything. Everything that you wanted was there. But really, what really hurt them was the location of the business. In Kansas City, there's a place in Kansas City called Westport. That's where all the nightclubs and things like that, and Caribbean clubs and things like that, and restaurants and things like that. And that's where you needed to be in Kansas City to be successful in that type of business. So unfortunately, being in that part of town, buildings were very expensive. So and to this day, that's what really hurt them was the location of the business. So really, I'm like the second generation of a business owner, sure. And there's a huge learning curve for me with this. So everybody's not born to be a business owner. There's a lot to know, and there's a lot to do, and things that you have to understand and have to know. A lot of regulatory things that we have to know, and things of that nature. So the things that I knew how to set the business up, that's what I did. And when I needed help, I asked for help. Because when you need help, you just got to ask for it. Yeah.
Leonard, we have a couple of questions, and Kitty, I will get to yours a little bit later. Just to clarify, Leonard, you do have a food truck. So when Kim Yada is asking where you're located, your home base is New London, right? But then the food truck goes all over the Fox Valley. And
basically, we haven't been in the Fox Valley that much. We've been out west, out at Stevens Point a lot. We go to District 1 Brewery. There's a CBD store where we set up two out there in District 1. We've been doing a lot of catering and a lot of events. And that's how it's been for the past few months. As time wind down, we'll try to revisit those Fox Valley locations where we go. But right now, we tied up with events. In the month of September, we're going to be in 5 food truck rallies. I have 5 food truck rallies, and I have a wedding to do. So, so we got a pretty hefty schedule.
It sounds like it. Yeah. And you were touching upon this, Leonard, with business support, and when you reach out for help when you need it. And so I was just interested in hearing, like, it sounds like your family's been a big support for your business, but then any other type of support that you've received through your journey, and like, how did that business support look like when you got started?
When I got started, it looked like with Kitty Johnson with Cap Services. The 2 big people I have to say I have to give a lot of credit to is Kitty Johnson and Tom McDermott. He's out at UW Oshkosh, a small business counselor. He helped me with forming my business plan when it came down to doing the financials, which is the financials part of the business plan is probably one of the hardest things you have to do out of anything you have to do with the whole business plan. Basically, in the financials, you're doing projections on what your revenue is going to be for the next 3 to 5 years. And it's very hard to do that when you have a brand new business with no data to try to pinpoint exactly where you think your financials are going to be. And they can't be too extreme and they can't be too light. You know, they have to be in a comfortable medium, you know? So, and that was, he was a big help with me with that. And Kitty Johnson was as well, you know, with my financials. You know, we emailed back and forth and I show her what we needed, what was there. And she give her input on what she felt that would be good or not good and what I need to dive into and look at it more. And that was a huge, it was huge for me, you know, because if you try to go about that alone without that type of support, and then it makes it really tough.
Sure, definitely. And then compared now, you've been up and running for how long, Leonard?
Probably like 11 months now.
Okay, so it's still a pretty young business, but you did mention to me earlier how busy you are already.
Yeah.
And then, so how does that business support look like today? Do you have any kind of formal support, or you just it sounds like you're just staying really busy and it's going well for your business?
Yeah, a few months ago, I ran across a guy who is a veteran in the business of food trucks. He started in concessions. And he has 3 units. He's been doing it over close to 20 years. Somehow, some way, this man came into my life some kind of way. He's been a huge support for me. I mean, you know, we have conversations on the phone. He'll call me and ask me to see how I'm doing and if I have issues, and we kind of, you know, work out, you know, what my issues are over the phone. And he's been a huge support, you know. You know, it's very rare to find somebody like that in the business. Usually you'll see people like to keep things to themselves about how they go about their daily routine, but he's pretty much an open book, and I can ask him anything I like about, you know, questions that I may have about things. And when it comes to, you know, events to get into and things like that. So he's been a huge support. As a matter of fact, I saw him yesterday, and we were talking in the middle of the parking lot, so about business. So, but yeah, I mean, you got to have that kind of support. If you can find a fellow trucker or a person who's doing the same thing that you're doing, that you can go to and ask these type of questions, it's a huge weight off your shoulders to be able to talk to someone, because at the end of the day, they're the only ones that know what you're going through. 9 times out of 10, they've been through the same thing you went through. So they may have, you know, suggestions on how to work through it or how to get it, and things like that. So it makes it's just huge to be able to talk to somebody like that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I hear that. And I hear that from a lot of the conversations, like it can be one person or it could be multiple, but like having kind of like that peer or mentor who can kind of guide you through those tough discussions and decisions. That sounds like something that a lot of people just really are leaning on, getting through their business.
Yeah.
And then we have you're getting a lot of traction, Leonard.
Oh,
Any
really?
questions here?
Wow.
Kimyata's wondering how you let your followers know where you are.
What we do, we have a Facebook page. We have a heavy Facebook presence. So we post all our events where we're going to be. Um, and they can follow us, look at our page and look at all our events. Every place that we're going to set up, we have it on there. Only thing that we don't post is we doing private events or catering. That's the only thing that we don't post. But anything that's the public is welcome to, we post everything on our Facebook page where we are.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we have you tagged in this event too, so people can easily go to your Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I did add more contact information too for you. If you're interested in connecting with Leonard, email, website, and all that. So please be sure to reach out. And then during these 11 months, I mean, you did, and I guess we're still in a pandemic.
Right.
Now, like in this period of time, how do you feel like your business has grown and changed?
In the beginning, like I said, we go back to the business plan. I wrote out, exactly, what sectors of business I wanted to, target. A business plan is a living document, so it changes. And it changed. The places that we have gone, there was never written in my plan. So things did change for us in a big way. So I managed to get into Iowa Car Show, which is like the biggest car show in the country. And just so happened they approached me about coming there. To go into an event that big and being a first-time business owner is huge. Iola don't let anybody in there. So that was a big deal for us. It really was. Right now, there's a lot of events that we're being involved with. And these are people who they may have had a friend or a relative that ate at our truck and they went back and told them about it and they contacted me and then we ended up doing this event and that's how things have been going for the past 11 months. And that's how it's been. Other people who want catering, or they had a friend or a relative that ate at the truck and you need to call this guy and have him do it. And that's how everything has ended up. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky to be in a position that I am. I thank God for the opportunity that I have. He gave me a talent for cooking, and I'm taking full advantage of everything that comes around. So, I mean, right now, being almost a full year, next month, the 14th, we have a full year of being in business.
Congratulations.
So right now it's just I think this year was a data collection year for us of all the events that we've been. Over the winter, we'll actually sit down and look down at what we've done and look at the revenue and see where we need to target. Next year, we plan on targeting more events and more catering. That's what we want to do. And we got people calling us from Warsaw and Merrill and Marshfield. They want us to come up there. That's a long ride. A food truck doesn't ride like a Cadillac. For people who never rode in one, they really don't. And so we're gonna try to get in events up there next year, and that's our goal.
That kind of segues into another question from the audience, again from Kimyata. Is the food truck your only source of income? If so, how did you know when it was time to let go of your main job? Right. If not, what is your goal you've set to let you know when it is time to let go of your main job, your full-time job?
That's a good question. To be honest, I let go of my job for my own personal well-being. It's hard to say when your body will tell you when it's time for you to go, when it's time to leave. There's a lot of people that's in this food truck business that still work a full-time job that does the food truck, and I don't know how they do it. and they look at me, they don't understand how I do it. So we had these conversations, and we both going back and forth. Well, I understand how you do that or how you do that. It takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of support to be able to do something like this. There's a lot of fear in this. The pandemic just compounded by 1,000. You know, I started in September last year. That was the height of the pandemic, and everything was closed down. You know, and what are we going to do? You know, I mean, it's just insane. Food trucks, I think it was a godsend. The food truck played a vital part in this pandemic because you couldn't go anywhere to eat, and people was afraid to go in restaurants when they first started opening up slowly. Food trucks played a vital part in that. You know, I had a lot of people who come to the truck when they started opening restaurants slowly that they was very grateful for a food truck being there because they didn't feel comfortable going in a restaurant.
Sure.
You know, long lines in the drive-thrus and things like that. Right. They can come up to the truck and they can order their food and they can go home. You know, the biggest thing is that you have, you know, to step out and do this. Yeah, it's a big decision to make. And you have to be prepared for that. I think the best thing is that you have to sit down and look at your finances and see exactly what your responsibilities are for your business and what your responsibilities are for your home. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you have young kids. If you have school-age kids, I wouldn't do this because your hours are going to be long and you're not going to have time with the kids. My son just turned 17 in August. So he's, you know, he can take care of himself, you know. And so if you have young kids doing this, I know truckers that have young kids and they try to do this. And it's very hard for them. So it's best that you look at all these components and see where you are and see, okay, well, I can't do this now. Maybe 2 years from now, we'll be in a better position to do it. So just to jump off and do it and not be having some kind of support or some kind of framework that support that you're going to make that next move, I wouldn't suggest that you do that.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And this kind of gets into Kitty's question that she has for you. You may have another. It sounds like you're on the advice bandwagon here, like advice. So she's asking, what advice would you give to someone who might be thinking about starting a food truck and catering business?
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, you know, the biggest thing is knowing knowing what's all involved. Do your research on the business, and go up to a food truck, there's someone that owns a food truck, and ask them, how is it to run? What did it take? I've had people come up to me and ask that, they ask questions. Well, I was thinking about opening a food truck. What do I do and things like that, and just go up and ask. I think the biggest thing is that you have to make sure that first you got to make sure you have the money to do it, because it's going to be a lot of money when you first start up, and to get it started, with the licenses and insurance and everything that comes along with it, inventory, wrapping your truck, any mechanical things that you may have to be done to the truck, is make sure you have a buffer for that. You just write everything down on a piece of paper on what you need to start this business, what you need in hard dollars, and then also have a buffer of an extra $5,000 to $10,000 in there for mishaps that may come up that you have no recollection of. But be prepared to work a lot of long hours. We work 14 to 16 hours to go out on the street and work 3 hours. So we put 14 to 16 hours just to go out for 3. and it's just, there's a lot of commitment to it. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have those days where you try to figure out, why am I even doing this? I don't want to do this anymore, but you have to understand, but you always keep in front of your mind, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. It's for your financial freedom. It's for your personal freedom. You have the right to go out and pick and choose what work you want to do, what you don't want to do. And it's, the bottom line is all about the freedom, you know, and I love that. You know, I joke with my wife all the time, say, where can I go to work in my pajamas every morning? When can you do that? I mean, you can, but people might shut, you know, they shut against that in the corporate world. Well, when can you do that? You know, I mean, it's the coolest thing, you know, I mean, it really is, you know. I joke about that, but, you know, there days where I'm tired and I'm beat, you know, we out all day and I kind of come home and I got to start that smoker back up for the next day, you know, and, but at the end of the day, you know, I know why I'm doing it. You know, I love it. You know, I worked for somebody else all my life. I know what that is like. I know what that involves. And I don't have to deal with that, you know? So that's my motivation every day I wake up, and that's why I do what I do. But I suggest that someone that actually wants to do it, yeah, you have to do your research on if this is what you want to do, and reach out to a food truck owner and just ask those questions.
There you go. Yeah. And Leonard, I would love to hear something that you are particularly proud about in your business about Smokehound Barbecue.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, I'm very proud of the fact that that we managed to put a brand out there that everybody knows. We have people that approach my wife and I in the store, on the street. It was like, oh, you got Smokehound Barbecue. It was like, how you know me? You know, it's very gratifying for me. And you know, I'm very proud of the fact that I did it. You know, I was a kid that grew up in East Baltimore. I would never thought in a million years that I'd be in a position where I am right now. My mom always knew one day that I'll probably own my own restaurant, own business. She told me that years ago. And I thought about that this morning before this. But I just, you know, I just never thought, I would just never thought in a million years that this business would go the way that it's going. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. I'm very happy that it's going the way that it is. And I say, I take advantage of all opportunity. So I you know, that's all I can really say about that. I'm very happy about what things are. I really am.
That's wonderful. And when you look into the future, Leonard, I know you were talking about you want to expand on your catering,
right.
Doing more events, that kind of thing. So, but when you look at Smokehound Barbecue in like 5 years, what do you see on the horizon?
Well, the one thing I want to do, I want to expand this business. What I mean by that, I want to have multiple trucks. Okay. And I kind of expanded with that with Kitty one night, and on the phone I talked to her. I want to expand to multiple trucks. Right now is not the time to do that. For the short term, we'll move up to a bigger truck. Right now, we're running off an 18-foot truck. I want to go to a 22 or 24-foot truck to create more capacity. But for the long term, we want to go to multiple trucks and have them in different regions of the state. How that actually going to look on paper, I'm not sure, but that's what I see how I want it to be. Just because of the different places that I've been and requests that people want us to come to different parts of the state. Just have, you know, trucks dedicated to a certain part of the state where, you know, they may do Merrill, Marshfield, Wausau, Stevens Point, and then another truck that's based in another part of the state. That's where I see it. And possibly even franchise the business as well and see. And that's what I see for the business. But for now, definitely I like to expand the truck. And so where we have in more places. Right now, I can't be in 3 places at one time. And then that's to that point, that's where it's gotten for us. The phone just keep ringing and people's wanting in different places. And I had to turn the business away. I can't do it. I hate doing that. But that's pretty much what I have to do right now.
You're at capacity.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, but I understand that must be difficult to navigate. Like and how do you build up to that? And
yeah.
For sure. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up, Leonard, to any other fellow business owners of color here in Northeast Wisconsin, or anybody who's tuning in?
Just the only thing that you and I talked about before we went live, just the importance of with the financial part of it. Get your bookkeeper. I have a bookkeeper. I can't stress the importance of that. Learn how to read a P&L statement. Learn what it means. Look how it affects your business. Always watch your numbers. But you definitely need a bookkeeper. I mean, you have to have it. That's just one thing. And then, find a bookkeeper that you can trust, that's going to, do the right thing. So I can't stress that more than I can right now, because there's so much to the business that you don't realize that you have to deal with. I have to pay sales tax every quarter, on my sales, and all the other stuff, all the regulatory things that you have to do. So I cannot stress more that you have to have a bookkeeper. You just have to do it. You can take all the QuickBook lessons you want and do all other things, but when you get to the nitty-gritty of business, there's a whole facet to the business that you have to, especially when it comes to sales tax. You have to make sure all your books are in order and everything. And with you try to run a business and try to do your books too, you just get yourself in trouble if you make a mistake. So definitely get a bookkeeper. That's the most important thing.
That's really good advice, Leonard. I've heard that from other small business owners. Invest in that. Don't second guess that part.
Yeah.
And then Kim Yada wants to know when you're coming to Green Bay, and she wants to know how she can buy a share of your stock.
I don't have any stock yet, but we'll work on that part of it. But yeah. Green Bay, I don't have anything come up in Green Bay this year.
You may partner with Kim Yada.
Yeah. I know I had a organization contact me up there not that long ago. It had to do around Shark Fest or something for the crack, the YMCA or something. But it was on a date that I was already booked. So
okay.
I know they said they was going to keep me. They was going to keep me on a vendor list for next year. So you might see me up there for that. I have been in Green Bay, but it was for private events. I'll be at Ledgestone Vineyard this coming weekend. This coming weekend, I believe it is. This Saturday, Ledgestone Vineyard in Greenleaf. Okay. So that's the closest that I'll be in Green Bay. That's like between Appleton and Green Bay. So that's the closest I'll be. But this will be our second trip out there. It's a beautiful property. They always have live music on the weekend. So we'll be there this coming Saturday.
Okay. And if we follow your Facebook page, Leonard, or website, can we get that information there? Or
it's all on the Facebook page. It's all on the times that we'll be there. Everything's on the Facebook page. Yep.
You need to check the chat box after this, Leonard, because you're getting a lot of love. Okay, you got a lot of fans. You got a lot of love.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate
really
it.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just want to thank you so much, Leonard. I know time is so precious right now, especially right now, and how busy you are and successful you are. So thank you so much for joining in on the 11th Color Bold Spotlight. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I just want to give a shout out. I put in the chat box. Please check out the Color Bold soft launch event on September 21st at 6 p.m. It's a virtual event. You can sign up by just following the link, so you can get to know Color Bold and all the things that we're up to. And also sign up for our newsletter, and then obviously tune in for these spotlights. So thank you everybody, and thank you Leonard again so much for doing this, and we will stay tuned. All right, you take care.
We'll see you.
All right, bye everybody.